You and I talked on Twitter. Like I think it was yesterday because you said I can't believe it's already week 11.
Yeah.
I was like I feel that every year where week one happens, you blink and then it's Thanksgiving. Goes by too fast, but an important week. Hi everybody, welcome to the Pump Fake. Jared Bailey with you as always, joined by my good friend from Sports Illustrated, Matt Verderame. It is Bills Chiefs week, so obviously Verderame and I are going to spend an extensive amount of time talking about his favorite team, my adoptive team because of their quarterback. So we'll spend a lot of time on that, touch a little bit on some other AFC matchups. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, we were talking in the lobby, and you said that this is the most important, unimportant game of all time, and I thought that was a very appropriate billing for this game.
I just like let's live in a world, regardless who wins.
Yeah.
The game's, I don't know, 34-17, which would be a blowout, right?
Yeah.
Like by any reasonable standard. Does the losing team think they can't beat the other team?
No.
Like, does the losing team get in the locker room and go, "That's it, boys, pack it up. Can't do it." Like, first of all, and it's like the Chiefs lose to the Bills all the time in the regular season.
All the time, and it's meant nothing.
They don't care. The Chiefs are not going to go into this game and show 40 A-plus plays. And by the way, neither are the Bills.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very unique setup because a lot of times these games have been earlier in the year in the regular season. Now, last year it wasn't. Last year was later in the year. But a lot of these games, you go back and look, have been like week 5, week 6, week 6. I think it were the 3. Like, you're not going to, like, what are you going to learn? And in this game, Milano's not playing for the Bills. Coleman's not playing for the Bills. Kincaid's not playing for the Bills.
Yeah.
Carter's not playing for the Bills. Like, and then you look at like Cooper's probably going to play, but like he's not 100%.
He's got like, it looks like a splint on his wrist.
On his hand.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you're getting out of that. Like, and then the Chiefs, Pacheco's not playing. Amenahu's not playing. Butker's not playing. Hollywood Brown might be back later, so I'll throw him in there. It's just kind of unclear if he's going to play, but he's not playing. You have so many guys for both these teams. So it's like, all right, now like Rice isn't playing, he's out for the year. So like if they see each other in the playoffs, it won't matter. The point is, there are a lot of guys in these games right now. It's just like they're not going to play. And I just, you look at it, the Bills are going to win the AFC East. They're on cruise control to win the AFC East. The Chiefs are going to win the AFC West. It's over.
You don't believe in a big Bo Nix comeback on the horizon?
Not after Sunday, I don't. Not after. I mean, although to his credit, he played well. He can't block on a field goal, I guess.
Sure.
But I mean, my point is like, what these two teams? It's not like there's some unbelievable urgency in this game. Now you could argue, hey, look, Buffalo. If there is urgency on both sides, it's this. Buffalo knows if they lose this game, they're not getting the 1 seed.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Like they'd be 3 back with a breaker. The Chiefs could go 3-4 essentially, and unless everybody runs a table, like it's over. And the Chiefs are going to go 4-3, and then they clinch it, like they just are. The Chiefs' urgency in this game is, I guess, kind of like smaller but two-prong. It's if they win, they're the 1 seed essentially, and the other prong would be the hey, we're 10-0 and we could go undefeated. But I got to tell you, I don't think they care. Like, they want to win another Super Bowl. Like, I don't know. Now, like, if they got to like 14-0 or something.
Is that the magic number, do you think, where they'd start caring about that?
As a team, I think so. Like, if they got to like 14-0, I could see them being like, you know what, screw it. Let's just win 3 more games and, try to finish it.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like, oh my God, 10-0. You still got 7 games left. That's a lot of football. And they got to play the Chargers. That's at home. Fine. They got to play Texans at home. They got to play your Steelers on Christmas Day in Pittsburgh. Like, the odds are just against you. You're going to lose somewhere. And it might very well be in Buffalo. Like, if they lose to the Bills, I don't think there's one guy in that locker room who's like, damn, almost went undefeated. Like, they don't care. They want to win. They want it to repeat. That's been their whole thing since the second they won Super Bowl 58. I don't think all of a sudden that changes just because they're undefeated.
Yeah, and you pointed out for the Bills, like the one sense of urgency that would come from this is if we win, then we're 9-2, and we would own a breaker over them, so that would be something to pay attention to. Yeah, and you pointed out the injuries too. Like the Bills have been beat up all year, where they've had Milano's missed time. He's practicing again, but they're getting him back in the back half. Taron Johnson's missed games, Christian Benford's missed games, Terrell Bernard's missed games, Kincaid, Coleman, Cooper. Every one of their like good players not named Josh Allen or James Cook has missed games. It's been crazy.
both of these teams, and your point's true. I mean, it's correct. Both of these teams have been beat up. Like,
Yeah.
really, I mean, Rice is out for the year. Jalen Watson, who I know most people probably don't even know who he is, was phenomenal for the Chiefs at corner before he got hurt this year. Juju Smith-Schuster missed a month. Hardman has played, but he's been beat up. Mahomes has been beat up. Mahomes has been walking around with a wrapped ankle for a month now.
Yeah.
I was at that Tampa Bay game. I had a heart attack. I thought he was out for the season. He's laying on the ground. Like, they've been beat up. Their left tackle got hurt against Denver, and he's going to play in this game, but the backup came in, Suamati, and it looked like me trying to block. I mean, so they've had, Derek Notty's been beat up. They've had their fair share of guys. Justin Reed's played, but he's been beat up at times. Hollywood Brown, of course, got Butker now hurt. Amenahu has missed every game.
Who is their kicker right now that Butker's on?
Oh, God. I'm going to screw his name up. They got him from the Jets. They got him from the practice squad in the Jets. Mm-hmm. And his name, if I can find it in 2 seconds, he's going to come. He kicked last week.
Okay.
And he went 2 for 2, but he barely made both of them. And one was from 30 yards out. It almost hit the upright. So that's a little bit, interesting. Schrader is his last name. Spencer Schrader.
Okay.
Now, listen, here's the one thing that we all know is going to happen. Because he's from the Jets practice squad, he'll hit a 60-yard field goal in this game.
Right. And then
he'll just magically be 10 times better because he's not in the Jets anymore. By the way, this is how they got Harrison Butker. They had a kicker get hurt, and they were like, let's go to the Panthers practice squad. And they signed Harrison Butker, and then they were like, you know what? We're going to stick with him, and they cut their other kicker. And that's not going to happen this time.
That's how the Steelers got Chris Boswell as well, because Sean Twisham got hurt, and so they're like, let's go sign that dude up off the Texans squad from Rice. We'll see what he's got, and lo and behold.
I mean, but I think to your point, both these teams have had injuries. Both of them have endured to the point that they're 9-0 and 8-2. If you're Buffalo and you wake up on Monday morning and you're 8-3, are you devastated?
You're still 6 games ahead in the East. You're going to be a playoff.
Your big focus then is let's get to 2 seed.
Yeah.
Let's be home for 2 games, right? And if you're the Chiefs and you lose and you wake up and you're 9-1 with the Panthers and the Raiders up next, you're not like, oh my God, what do we do now? We're going to be 11-1. That's what you do now. And then, I think for the Chiefs, the biggest thing would be if they win the game, they can just kind of put their feet up and be like, we're the 1 seed. And if we want to go undefeated and push for it, cool. But we can basically take a 2-month vacation.
Right. And I think I don't want to say cynicism from Bills fans, but I think a lot of this game doesn't matter from Bills fans. I think our mutual buddy Nate Geary had said something on Twitter, even if they do win, nobody's going to give a shit because of the past and being 0-3 against the Chiefs in January. Until they do that, no one is going to care about the regular season matchup until they show that they can win against Kansas City in the playoffs. And I think that's somewhat fair. I wrote about it a little bit just because I think the narrative was an interesting one. We see all these comparisons of, Mahomes and Allen are this generation's Brady Manning. Manning didn't beat Brady until the 7th time they played. And things turned out pretty okay for him. So I think that the angle of that is, it's a pain in the ass of how all these playoff games have turned out if you're a Bills fan and you see them come so close. It's not just losses, man. It is just gut punch after gut punch where.
That's what it is.
Yeah. 13 seconds, wide right, part 2. You're close. You're so close, and you should have won one of them, only to have it end the way it has. I can understand the thought process.
It's also with the Bills specifically. It is their history. It is, if they had the 49ers history, I don't think it would be nearly as urgent all the time. I think there is a validation that he has to win. So he's remembered as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, and he's not just some footnote. And I get that. I do. I remember, being a Chiefs fan. I remember when Mahomes went to his first Super Bowl, and I was like, he's got to win this game. Because if he wins this game, then no matter what happens the rest of his career, nobody can sit there and, was he that good? Was he that? It's no, he was that good, man. That's it. You won, that's it. And I think with Allen, there's also Burrow at least has been to a Super Bowl, and Allen has got the I think that narrative, while I get it, it's stupid. They have not gone to a Super Bowl because Josh Allen has some referendum he's got to prove.
Right.
Josh Allen last year in the playoffs, I thought was fine. I didn't think he was great, but I also think he did more than enough to have them win that game. They lost because their defense couldn't get off the field. The 13 seconds game, I will go to my grave saying that is the greatest football game I ever saw, ever.
Yeah.
That was, and I wrote this after that game, that was perfect quarterback play. You could not watch two guys. If you had 100,000 simulations, two guys could not play that position better.
Yeah.
It was flawless. There were no turnovers. There were no near turnovers. Like that game, Allen just had the misfortune of Mahomes had just enough time to just go two plays, and I would put a lot of that at the feet of the coaches. Like, and then he lost a coin toss. I mean, I'll forever believe. Look, if Allen wins that coin toss, they're going down the field, they're going to win. Like, he lost a coin toss, and Mahomes knows that pain because Mahomes in 2018 had the same situation in the AFC title game.
Yep.
And I remember watching that I'm like, they're going to lose. They're never going to see the ball. Like, Allen, in my eyes, like, I'm not a Hall of Fame voter. I hope to be one day. Allen, look, he's still young in his career, but assuming he continues his strength, he's a Hall of Fame. The guy's a great player.
Absolutely.
To me, like, it's more about now you're trying to check that last box off, right? Or maybe you want to say, hey, look, maybe you want to have the MVP box or something. Fine, whatever. But, like, his career is complete if he doesn't win an MVP, if he wins a Super Bowl. I think that is that and like the Chiefs represent that box because like they're in the way. And it was the same way to bring it back to your point about Brady and Manning.
Yeah.
Manning always had to get by Brady. It was always like, you can't get by that son of a bitch. You can't beat him. And I'll tell you right now, and I say this as a Chiefs fan, they will beat them one day.
Yeah.
They will, whether it's this year, next, whatever. Like, there will come a year where the Bills beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. The Chiefs don't have some force field. Like, they'll do it eventually. Is it this year? I don't know. But I certainly believe if you gave me even money, what's going to happen? He'll win a Super Bowl in his career. Might even win multiple Super Bowls. But, it's just, man, in the end, it's so hard. And there's luck that goes into it. I tell Chiefs fans all the time, not to ramble forever, but like.
No, it's okay.
Last year's Super Bowl against the Niners. A lot of people I know are Chiefs fans. Like, they're just a better team, and they won that game. And it's like, look, I agree in the end they were the better team in the sense, like, when they had to execute, they did it. If Tommy Townsend's punt is 6 inches to the left and it doesn't hit that guy's leg, I don't know that they win that game.
Sure.
But it did hit him. Like, it's luck. I don't know. If Joseph Osai doesn't hit Mahomes 2 zip codes out of bounds, like, I don't know that they win. But he hit him. Like, there's certain things that just over, the first Super Bowl they won. Now, I still think they would have won because they had time and they had timeouts. But like, Garoppolo overshoots Emmanuel Sanders at the end of that game. What if he hits him? Like, I still think the Chiefs would have won, but like maybe they strip sack Mahomes or something, or a ball gets bad up there. There's a certain element of just luck. You got to have a little bit of luck. Go look at every Super Bowl run Tom Brady ever had. Like, there's just certain games and things that happen. The Chiefs, if they win the Super Bowl this year and they three-peat, yeah, it's because they're a great team. And it's also because, you know what? Somewhere along the line, they got a little bit of luck. Sure. Somebody missed a kick. Somebody took an inopportune penalty. Even the Eagles Super Bowl, look, I'll feed into the narrative for 5 seconds. That hold on James Bradbury.
Ticky-tack.
Did he hold them? Yes. That's a 50-50 call, right?
Sure.
Like, that's a call that if that play happens 10 times, 5 crews call it and 5 crews don't. Like, they called it. They got lucky. I mean, it's the breaks of the game. It is.
Yeah, and I think, sticking with the legacy conversation of Allen, I think that a lot of it, for fans at least, I'm not very shy about my fandom of Allen, that he's my favorite player to watch in the league. But I think that a lot of it, from a fan's perspective, I think that you're right, not wanting him to be forgotten in the annals of history, not wanting him to be a Charles Barkley, a Patrick Ewing, a Reggie Miller.
Validation.
And yeah. And I think especially in this era where, 20 years ago, it was, there was a class of Manning, Ben, Rivers, and I think a lot of this conversation surrounding those three is like, okay, would you rather have the career of Phillip Rivers or Eli Manning? Where, okay, Phillips probably recognizes the better quarterback, but you got Eli Manning. Exactly, yeah. And I think that the further time goes on, if other guys get rings and Allen's still standing there waiting for his, I think a lot of fans are, it's validation.
you don't want Allen to be this generation's Warren Moon.
Yeah. I think that's a good comp for him.
Warren Moon never gets talked about. The guy's one of the 15 greatest quarterbacks of all time, like by any metric, but nobody talks about him. He never got to a conference title game. Like he never gets brought up. And for like it is when you win the Super Bowl, it is a stamp of immortality. You will always be remembered for that. You know, and now, like, look, I mean, obviously it's different with Mahomes. Actually, he's won 3 of them. Like with Mahomes, like you have that winning that Super Bowl last year, they're a dynasty. Yeah. Like they will always be remembered as like the 80s Niners and 90s Cowboys. You'll talk about like the 20s Chiefs. It's one of the greatest teams of all time. But you don't need to be a dynasty to be remembered. I mean, there are plenty of guys. You know, Peyton Manning never played in a dynasty. Rodgers, a lot of these guys, Staubach, like they're remembered. For Allen, you know, it's weird. Like in the quarterback position, it holds so much more importance, right? Like nobody is going to sit there and be like, "Man, Ed Oliver won a Super Bowl." But thank God he'll be remembered. You know, like. You know, it doesn't like, I would even argue a guy like Travis Kelce. Now, he's won 3 of them, but like if Travis Kelce didn't win Super Bowls and put up the same numbers, he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, we don't do that for any other, but like Randy Moss never had one, but like we still recognize him as one of the 3 greatest receivers.
Well, Randy Moss was bullshit because he didn't like no one's but because you're the quarterback and you're the face of the team and you touch the ball every play, like you, right or wrong, you get lumped in with that. And look, man, as much as you and I joke around, go back and forth, Allen is a phenomenal player. I mean, he is. I always laugh like when there's a new quarterback and people are like, "Is he the next Mahomes?" It's like, buddy, like, come on, stop, right? Allen is the closest thing there is in the league to Mahomes. Like when Allen plays at his best, he can play with him. Where most of these guys, even when they play their best, I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Like you're not. Like it's like Justin Herbert played his best. Like that's great. He's not going to win. I don't care. Like there have been so many games where Herbert's had like an out of body experience against the Chiefs, and Chiefs win by 10 points because you're like, it just doesn't matter. Now with Harbaugh, maybe whatever that'll change, but like Allen, I always thought he was. I mean, the first couple of years, obviously he wasn't. He was struggling, figuring it out.
Sure.
Once he got good, I always thought like the guy is incredibly fun to watch. I mean, to me, maybe it's the reason you like him so much. He reminds me a lot of Roethlisberger.
Yeah,
he's just a lot of it. Big physical, like he's a tank, and he runs more, but like he's a tank to bring down. He throws the ball down the field. That 13 seconds game for me, though, was like the night for me. I'll always respect him. That game was ridiculous. I mean, any other quarterback, Mahomes just roundhouse knocks that guy out in the second round. I mean, Mahomes that night, we forget it because the Bills almost somehow are remembered more for that game because of like how far they took them to the limit.
Sure, yeah. I think because a lot of people, if they're a Chiefs hater or just a team who wanted to see something different, they were so fucking close, and it just evaporated.
Right. And I think because the Chiefs have also been defined by all the Super Bowl wins. Like that 13 seconds game is more remembered for the Bills in a lot of ways. But if you go back and look at that game, Mahomes was, even by his standards, was unbelievable that night. Yeah. And it took everything to win it. Like it took everything. That is the only 42-36 game I'll ever say, I thought the defense just played well. I don't know what else they could have done. I mean, it was just a night where both those guys had their, it's like in baseball and you say like, the guy had no hit stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys that night just both had no hit stuff. And so to me, even last year, like they lost. And yeah, Allen, look, I'm sure you could pick 2 or 3 plays out in the game, but like really the biggest blunder in the game, other than a coaching blunder, was Diggs.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the greatest throws you'll ever see in your life. That guy did coverage. Like it wasn't even like it was bad coverage, it was on him. Now, I'll also defend Diggs in this sense. It's 60 yards downfield. Like that's a hard, like you're trying to track that, the guy's on you, but he should have caught it. And he didn't, and it is what it is, but look, I will say this. I think the Bills are the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC. I didn't think it's close. I know Baltimore is really good. I get all that. I can tell you right now, without even having to ask anybody in the Chiefs locker room, they would all rather play Baltimore. Every single one of them.
And let me dive in on my, Steelers fandom / Ravens hatred real quick, because I do think that it's so hilarious that we do this every year with the Ravens, where in October, November is like, oh man, look how great Lamar is. And then January rolls around and he craps his pants. Like he's played Mahomes multiple times, played Allen multiple times throughout his career. Then you look at his playoff numbers. Whenever a team scores more than 13 points, he hasn't won a playoff game. And
Right.
in his two playoff games against Mahomes and Allen, he has scored a combined 13 points. So like that's great, man. Give him all the regular season MVP awards that you want, but when the calendar flips until he shows me that he can win like a ginormous playoff game against it, I don't care. I don't care.
It's that, and it's. I agree with you. It's also too like this Ravens team. Like he's on pace to throw for well over 4,000 yards for the first time in his career.
Sure.
Henry's on pace to rush, I think, for like 19 and change, basically. They can't stop anyone. Like when they play Kansas City or even Buffalo, like those teams are going to hang 30 plus points on them. They're good. And for everybody, by the way, watching or listening to this, who's like, well, the Chiefs this year haven't been that explosive. Buddy, believe me, wait till the playoffs. They will pull out 40 plays they haven't shown this year and be like, here it comes. and the other thing they do in the playoffs, they've always done, like, they will find a weakness and they will just relentlessly
hit that button over again.
Go at it over and over. They don't care. I guarantee you they walked out of that first game against the Ravens this year going, okay, there's 3 or 4 things we know that if we see them again, we can do it, and there's nothing they're doing about it. Mm-hmm. Like, the Ravens can't stop anybody throwing the ball. You know what Allen would do to him in a playoff game? And again, I know they're probably Ravens fans would be like, beat him 35-10. Bro, that's week 4. I don't care. And as much as it pains me to say this, I'll be like, if the Bills didn't run that trick play in that game,
they probably would have came back.
I really think they would have won that game. Yeah, you could feel like the tidal wave of momentum coming, and then McDermott was like, "Oh, not McDermott, Dorsey, Brady. Brady's like, well, how about this play? Oh my, why? Like, why? Oh my God! It was one of those things. The second it started happening, like
Joe Brady said, "Actually, I'm the hero tonight."
Oh my God! It was one of those things, man. The second that play started, you're like, "This is a disaster. What are you doing?" But no, I think, man, look. The Bills, I look at them and say they beat the Ravens. I think the Chiefs have owned them anyway. The Chiefs beat them every time they play them. I think they beat them. Houston's a weird one because, like,
I don't know, man. I think I've kind of written off Houston at this point.
I mean, they could, like, the reason I say that is, like, there's a world they play Houston, and Houston throws for 400 yards in that game.
Yeah. Like, I think Stroud's fantastic, and it's not all on him that the offense hasn't been as dynamic. He has no time to throw the ball. His offensive line's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
That's the other, like, the Ravens might sack him 10 times. Like, I don't know what would happen first, but it's just, I think the Ravens would beat them, but I don't know that they would. I'll tell you what would be fascinating is if the Ravens, and I only say that they'd be the 2 because I think they'd have to be for this matchup. If they were the 2 seed in the Bengals,
oh, I know where you go. Yep.
That game,
give that to me right now.
It's such a weird. Like, you look at the Bengals and they're 4-6, and everybody's so down on them.
Here's the thing, man. I still think they're gonna make the playoffs, though. For the record,
so do I. But, like, it's so funny because you look at the Bengals should have beaten the Ravens twice.
They had double-digit leads on them in both games and blew them.
And look. Now, it was a good – I'll argue that it was a good call. It was a right call. Should have been Kansas City. Yeah. If that guy doesn't maul Rashee Rice on 4th and 1,000,000, like, they win. They'd be 7-3. We'd be talking about the Bengals as, like, the best team in the conference. But they – and listen, part of that is, hey, man, that's part of it. Like, you got to win those games. You can't fall apart in those big spots. Like, that's part of the deal. But, like, I'll tell you what happened at the end of that Ravens game. Nobody's talked about that, at least that I've seen, that – also happened in the AFC title game a year ago. And I'm like, how is no one talking about this as a problem? The Ravens took, like, multiple personal fouls on the last drive of that game. They just can't help themselves. They took 5 in the AFC title game.
Good Lord.
I'm like, hey, guys, you're like the most penalized team in the league. You may want to cut that down for a playoff game. Like, if they rough Allen twice in a playoff game, they're going to lose.
They're losing. Yeah.
They're going to lose. Like, that's what's going to happen. They gratuitously hit Mahomes and take 3 extra penalties. Here's 3 first downs.
There's 45 extra yards. Have fun.
You're losing. Like, you're going to lose the game. Like, if you take 3rd and 8 and turn it into a first down because you clubbed the guy 3 seconds late, you're going to lose. Like, those teams are too good. They're going to take advantage of it. I think Baltimore's fine. And Jackson is fun. But, like, Jackson's like James Harden, where during the regular season, like, hey, this guy, can't stop this guy. And then, like, the playoffs, like, they're 0 for 27 from downtown. You're like, actually, as it turns out, you can't stop him. Like, I don't know. I'm in prove it mode with the Ravens.
That's where I'm at.
Prove it to me. Prove you can beat Buffalo in a playoff game. Prove you can beat Kansas City in a playoff game. Prove it. And if you do it, I'll give you all the credit in the world.
And that's where I'm at too, because for you pointed out, and I'll give Jackson credit too, because he's playing well this year, as he usually does in the regular season. But what's his signature win? A win over a rookie CJ Stroud who didn't have any of his good receivers, a win over the Titans. Like, I need to see more before I truly care. While we're in the AFC North, let's talk about Steelers Ravens real quick, because that's a game going into the year that I said coming into the year, as a Steelers fan, I think they'll be better by default. They won 10 games a year ago. They upgraded offensive coordinator, quarterback. Defensively, they signed a few new players that I think would be upgrades in terms of Patrick Queen, Deshaun Elliott, would help out that unit as a whole. And now they're 7-2, which I would be lying if I said that I thought that they would be that after 9 games. Have first place in the AFC North on the line in Pittsburgh on Sunday when Baltimore comes to town. I think right now the narrative is, all right, Jackson's 1-3 against the Steelers, hasn't beat them since 2019, and even then, it was an overtime game against Duck Hodges. And if Russ continues all the success he's having on these moon balls that he's had throughout the first 3 games as a starter, then I think it could be a game that Baltimore just can't hang. Because back to our other conversation, eventually they're going to play somebody with the defense. Pittsburgh has a defense, and if they're not able to keep up with the Steelers offensively, then yeah, I think this is a game that Pittsburgh can win at home.
Yeah, I think it's a game Pittsburgh absolutely can win. First of all, whenever these two teams get together, these games typically are just bloodbaths. And
in the last 5 games, there hasn't been a team that scored 20, so it'll be maybe a little bit of a change.
They're brawls. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's why, last week, not to bring it back, but when the Chiefs played Denver and everybody's like, they're going to roll them. I went on my podcast. I'm like, this game's going to come down to the last 2 minutes. It's just, they're just always that way. Those games are just always tough. They're always tight. I mean, I expect Pittsburgh, Baltimore to be the same thing. And I think that plays to Pittsburgh's strengths. Honestly, if you're Pittsburgh, you don't want this game played in the 30s. You want this game to be 23-20, 20-17. I said to you off air, if I were them, I would go 3 wide, 4, and just throw it and throw it and throw it. Fine, beat me. Do it. You can't cover anybody. Stop me. Gardner Minshew lit them up like a Christmas tree. I would force them to cover every blade of grass. If there's a way they can figure out formationally to go 7 wide, I'm involved. What do you want to do? How can we get the guard in space? Cover them. Go. I really think if you're Pittsburgh, forget run the ball with Najee Harris. I don't care. Flip it out to Jaylen Warren, get him his touches that way, put them in space and just make him cover. They can't. Now, the flip side of that is, look, I think when the Steelers are on defense, this is going to be, and I'm sure he's happy about this, Patrick Queen game.
That'd be great.
Stuff that run, man. I know the Ravens have thrown the ball a lot this year, but part of that is because they're so great running the ball that you just get all these wildly advantageous matchups in the passing game because everybody's crowding the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. If I'm Pittsburgh, my whole thing is we're going to stop you from running without bringing extra guys into the box.
Which they can do.
Yeah, stop them. Stop them from running the ball with, 7 guys down there and just say, all right, look, you're not going to run. And if we can get you – now, it's easier said than done, of course. But if you can get them to, 2nd and 7 and 3rd and 6, I feel great if I'm Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Do you subscribe to this theory? Because it's one that I think is kind of funny to think about. So if the Steelers win this game, they're going to be 8-2. In my head as a Steelers fan, I'm like, is this an 8-2 team? Do I really think that this is an 8-2 team, or do they feel like more of a 7-3 team? In my heart, I think they're more of a 7-3 team. Do you subscribe to the record theory? That might be due.
I think I've always heard the whole your record says yes. It says you are.
Yeah.
I think there's shades of gray with it. All right, I've seen a lot of people this year be like, yeah, Chiefs and I know, but are they really that good? And I'm like, the 2-time defending champs, man. I'm thinking they're probably that good.
That's why whenever people are like, oh, they're the 2020 Steelers. Yeah, there's a lot. The Steelers didn't win consecutive Super Bowls, and Ben, God love him, but he wasn't. There's a large difference between 39-year-old Big Ben and Mahomes right now. So let's
seen the Chiefs do this for years. They just they muddle through these games and they're half asleep. And then like it's like the Undertaker sitting up in the
Right.
grave when it's a divisional round, and they're like, "Here it comes!" And it just, I've seen them do this for years, where they just screw around, they don't care, like half in a bag, like they're like, "Let's see if we can win this game with a preseason slate of plays." Like they just don't care. So I think there's elements of it. Like if the Steelers win this game, I think you got to take them as legit, man. Like if they win this game against Baltimore, like all right, you have my attention. If you win this game, you have my now. Are they going to go to Arrowhead and win a playoff game? Like, I mean, defensively, I'll say one thing for them: they'd put pressure on Mahomes in that game. They'd get there. I think a lot of it for me is what is Russell Wilson in the second half of the season. If he's like, and they're winning like in spite of him, then I don't really believe in them as a contender. If he starts playing the way, he played in Seattle, all right, it's a real team. It's a real team to contend with. So I do think sometimes with records you can get screwed around with by like the strength of their schedule. And, like that's why I think one of the things that's interesting with this Bills game this week. Now, I subscribe to the same way I said about the Chiefs. The Bills have been good for years.
Sure.
Like I know the Bills are good. But there's this whole argument of like, well, they've beaten nobody. And the two times they've played a good team, they've lost. And it's like, all right, yeah, but they're the Bills. Like they're not garbage. What are we doing?
Yeah.
But you will hear that. If they lose to the Chiefs, that will be out there. Well, they can't beat a good team, which is insanity. But like that'll be. I think, like, remember the 1 year, God, was it last year or two? The Dolphins beat like every crappy team they played.
It was last year. It was last year. And then they just got destroyed by everybody.
And then like people like at one point in the year like they're 7-2. I'm like, that's nice. Like I don't care if they beat the Panthers. Like they're terrible. Like I've never been more confident in my life going into a playoff game than when the Chiefs played Miami in negative 800 degrees. Like, okay, we'll see who wins this game.
I'm pulling up the numbers right now, actually, because I recently said something about this.
They played nobody. And every time they played somebody who's even a modicum of a decent team, they got killed.
Yeah, so I got it right here. When I did my preseason head coach rankings, I put Mike McDaniel 15. And I did that in large part because of that. So they lost twice to the Bills, the Eagles, the Chiefs.
Are you sure he's a good coach?
No, I don't think he is. I think he's a horrible coach or anything, but I don't think he's like this genius that everybody pegged him to be, a few years ago. But last year when they lost to Buffalo twice, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Baltimore, they lost by a combined score of 177-84, which averages out to an average score of 35-17. So anytime they faced a good team, it was they
got killed, man.
Yeah, man.
I remember they played the Chiefs in Germany, and like the game ended up being 21-14. 21-0 at halftime. It was like the Chiefs basically took a nap. And then like in the fourth quarter, like, oh God, all right, we're gonna get one stop. And they blitzed to into 4th and 26. And we're like, the game's over.
Yeah.
So, I'll give you a fun one in the same thing. So every year I do this piece for Sports Illustrated where I rank the head coach quarterback combinations.
Okay. And
what I do is like so let's just say, like, for an example, let's say I have Allen as the second best quarterback in the league, and I have McDermott as just to make it like the 10th best quarterback in the league. So you combine them and like their score is 12, right? Because like 2 and 12.
And the lower the score, the better.
Yeah, the higher, the better you are, right? So forget guessing the score. Where do you think I had the Dolphins? That combination?
Oh man, I'm gonna say just the score. I'd say like 31.
Pretty close. Score is 27.
Okay.
I had him 14th overall.
Oh yeah,
I had McDaniel a little higher than you. I had him 11th. I had Tua 16th.
I think I put Tua like right in that like 16 to 19 hole where it's like Purdy, Gino, too.
Yeah, like just that. And then, like, I had the Bills. I had them 8th because I had Allen 3rd, but I had McDermott 18th.
Oh, see, let's talk about this real quick because I think that you and I have similar theories and thoughts on McDermott. 18th though, that's a little bit lower than I would have expected him to be.
Yeah, I graded it based off like the playoff stuff. Like
that's fair.
That's my thing because like to me that's what they're judged by. They're judged by him in the playoffs, where you could argue, hey, no, if you should judge them all by the regular season. If I did that, he would have been higher. But I judged them like so. Like
calling a fake punt to DeMar Hamlin.
Jesus, yeah, like what?
I think that's probably like, a fair ranking there.
I had the only teams that I had both the quarterback and the coach in the top 10. I had Kansas City, I had Baltimore, I had the Rams, I had McVay 4th and Stafford 7th.
That's fair.
I had the Texans. I had Ryans at 9th and Stroud at 4th. And believe it, and this ended up, I think, proving to be a little off because I think Love is too high. But I had LaFleur 5th and Love 8th. I think Love's probably more like 13th, 14th right now. And then I had the Chargers. I had Harbaugh 7th and Herbert 6th. But after that, like the Bengals were close. Like Zach Taylor was 12th. The Bills.
Are we sure that he's going to be there next year in Cincinnati?
I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I had Purdy at 15th, which Campbell and the Lions were close. I had Campbell 10th and Goff 12th. But point being, yeah, like to me, like the higher you have, those two are the most important positions in the game. They just are. Like if you have a great coach, you can win. You're a great quarterback, you can win. You have them both. You're really set up. And I think, man, this year in the playoffs, I kind of think the coaching thing is going to become a huge conversation. It's a referendum.
I think it is right now in Buffalo.
Well, it's a referendum on McDermott.
Yeah.
Right. Sirianni, they will come after him on the field if they lose a game in the playoffs because of Sirianni. Right.
Especially if it's in the wild card round again. If they go back-to-back one and dones.
I was talking to my editor there, and I'm like, man, that Philly team, especially on offense, is so talented. Like, if I'm the Lions, I don't want to see that team.
No.
They could come in there and hang 45 points, but, like, they also could have a situation where it's 4th and 8 at midfield, and Sirianni's like, go for it. And they just, it's like a disaster. But you look at, like, so the Eagles, I think it's a referendum on their coaching. The Bills, certainly, we've talked about it. The Bengals, get it. It could be a referendum on them. I'll give you a guy sneaky. I think it's true. Is John Harbaugh. How many years are guys going to fall apart in playoff games?
I think it's completely fair to throw his name out there, especially because of the success that they've had in the regular season. We're talking about.
I know you've won a Super Bowl, but bro, that was a long time ago. And you've had a lot of. Jackson might be a 3-time MVP by the end of this. He's been to the AFC title game once, and you got hammered in that game.
I would say, for as much shit as I've given Mike Tomlin over the past couple of years, John Harbaugh should have a far hotter seat than Tomlin should, just because of what you just pointed out. Like, Tomlin's had Kenny Pickett and 90-year-old Big Ben. Like,
I'm glad you've come around. I've been screaming this at you for 5 years. Like, he's been playing with you and me at quarterback. This is ridiculous. Like Wilson's like competent, and they're 7-2.
I'll tell you what, man. So going into last week, they were 0-9 over the last 2 years when the opponent scored more than 24 points. They ended that streak, and I'm very happy about it.
But no, I think like it is a referendum on some of these coaches. Like, you look around, you're like, man, I'll give you another guy. Not that he's like on a hot seat or anything. Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
How many bites of the apple you need for you win a Super Bowl?
How many more all pros do we need to give you on offense before it's can we talk about that too real quick? Because for all the bitching and moaning this year, it's like, oh man, they don't have Christian McCaffrey. They have 3 other fucking all pros on the offense, man. Like, Christ alive.
I know, how much do you need? And by the way, Jordan Mason's played like a Pro Bowler.
And Jordan, Now, granted, like Ayuk's gone for the season now, unfortunately, and Deebo's been dealing with injuries, and that's fine. Like when they're all gone at the same time, sure. But like for the first few weeks of the season, we're like,
here's my thing with that though. The Rams have been beat to shit.
Yeah,
we talked about the Chiefs and the Bills, both of them. Injuries all over the place. Like I don't care. I don't care. You still have your quarterback. You got a million guys in that team that can play football at a high level.
Yeah.
Go win. I don't want to see you lose to the Cardinals at home and be like, well, it's because we didn't have McCaffrey. Like, well, then you're not that good.
Yeah.
You're not that good then. Like, go win the game. Go figure it out. It's the same thing like this weekend, Bills, Chiefs. Whoever loses, I don't want to hear the other side being like, well, it's because we were missing these guys. Shut up. Everybody's missing somebody every week. It's the same thing. After the Texans lost to the Lions, despite getting 5 interceptions, I tweeted out, I'm done with the Texans. Don't talk to me about the miscontenders. I must have had 40 Texans fans, all of them, by the way, get into my mentions and be like, well, they're missing Will Anderson Jr. and Nico Collins. Bro, I don't care. You picked them off 5 times. Like, go in the game. Shut up. Like,
even if you want to take the one away because it was like right at the half and it didn't matter. It's still 4 interceptions. You can't win.
Shut up. You're a contending team at home in prime time. And like I even said it to a few people. I'm like, you think the Bills would have lost that game? Are you kidding me? You think the Chiefs would have lost that game? They picked Jared Goff off 5 times. I don't care if it was me at receiver. They're not losing that game. And I'm like, by the way, you still have Mixon. You still have Tank Dell. You still have Schultz. You still have all these guys. Like, shut up. Go win the game. You have Stingley. You have Petrie. You have Autry. You have Danielle Hunter.
And plus there was a play where they were in play action, and Tank Dell was in a completely different county than any Lions defender, and it took Stroud like a year and a half to notice it before he threw it.
Anyway. Yeah. I hate that, man. And I say that when the Chiefs lose and they're missing some guy, and like the whole Chiefs Twitter thing, it's like, well, if they had this bozo this game, like, no, man, look, that's football. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. Like, don't stop. It's ridiculous. If the Chiefs don't three-peat this year, the first person who says to me, well, if they had Rashee Rice. Yeah, but they don't. He's hurt. Like, that's football. I mean, if the Bills had 7 starters last year against the Chiefs, maybe they win the game. They didn't. That's the way it goes, and the Chiefs went into Baltimore without a man who got hurt early in the game. They went in there without Joe Thuney. Okay, and everybody was like, Matabike is going to kill him. Well, he didn't. They found a way to win the game. Like, there's nothing worse than injury guy except for conspiracy guy.
I think refs guy is worse than injury
that's
guy.
Conspiracy guy for me.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, there has been nothing more hilarious from my timeline this week than Broncos fans being like, the Chiefs, the game's rigged because there was a holding call in the second quarter. Literally, that's been the like, bro, you had a 35-yard field goal to win the game, and 8 guys got knocked on their ass on the left side of that line. It was a jailbreak. If you look at the play, like, Leo Chenal is the one who blocks it.
Mm-hmm.
George
Karlaftis is right there.
Was going to kill that kick if Chanel didn't do it, and like Cochran had a shot to do it. But then you get these people. Well, yeah, but there was an illegal hands to the face call in the second quarter. Like, they're the worst. These people are the worst. It's so embarrassing. The game's rigged. It's rigged. It's like, no, the officials are terrible, and the officials have been terrible forever. Yes. I defy any of these people. Go to YouTube. Go to a game in the mid-'90s when instant replay was outlawed for a handful of years. There are plays in every game where some guy catches like a bounce pass, and they're like, think he got it. And you're like, that ball bounced 3 yards before he got to it. And they're like, nah, it's fine. It counts. Or like the guy, like, was his knee down when he fumbled? The guy's like on the ground rolling, and the ball comes out, and they're like, he was still up. Like, this has happened forever. Stop.
When did they I think they brought it back because of I think it was a Jets game. Was it? Yeah. Was it
the Bucks Rams
playoff game? Yeah, you're right. All right. Yep, you're right.
No, actually, I'm sorry. No, that rule was instituted, the catch rule, because you're right. The instant replay was instituted.
Was it Vinny?
The Jets Seahawks game. I was watching that game in New York as a kid live when that happened. Vinny snuck and landed about 8 yards shy of the goal line. And then just did like the electric until he got to the goal line, and they're like, "Yeah, it's good, touchdown." It's one of the greatest. Like, oh my god! And people forget this. The Seahawks were fighting for their lives to make the playoffs in that game,
and I think that knocked him out, didn't it?
It basically, for all intents and purposes. I'm pretty sure Phil Luckett was the official for that, and then
because he was the same guy for the Steelers Lions. Yeah,
same year. It was. But like, that's my people. Can you imagine that today?
Oh my god!
And now imagine if the Chiefs were involved. there would be a federal investigation. Like, and I love these people. It's rigged. It's like the NFL doesn't give a shit who's winning. Like,
no.
Do you think that like people aren't going to watch the Super Bowl if the Chiefs aren't in it? Like,
if the NFL was rigged, Nick Foles wouldn't have sniffed a Super Bowl. That's
also
my.
The Cowboys would be good.
Yeah.
So with the Giants and the Jets, I can promise you that the NFL, like Kansas City, Missouri, wouldn't be the epicenter, and Buffalo, New York, right? Like Green Bay, Wisconsin, Detroit. Yeah. But like, that's my point. Those are the big teams right now. The NFL's never been more popular. Nobody cares. You could put a team in Albuquerque, and if they had Mahomes, it'd be great national TV every week. It's just the way it is.
I think we got a lot accomplished today. What's coming from you on Sports Illustrated? I know that Connor just put out the top 25 coaches list. That's always a great read.
Dude,
over there.
Connor, fuck my crap. I'll shout out Connor. Connor, that list, people do not understand how much work goes into that. He has been talking to sources for that thing literally for months on end, like texts and phone calls and interviews. I mean, he takes that so seriously. We were in meetings about a bunch of things, but like that being one of them. If you have not read his piece about head coaching candidates for the next cycle, read it. Like, and I'm not just showing because it's Sports Illustrated. Like, he's a friend of mine. He is so dedicated. That's something he does annually. He's done that every year. It's so insightful because he talks to so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and read that. Yeah, my stuff. I mean, I had the quarterback rankings come out this week. That was fun. Do it once a month. I have my column on Sunday that comes out every week where we like look at what happened, but then it's more about like what it means and going forward. Get playoff picture stuff. I'm trying to think if I had anything else. If I had like a piece, usually I do a trend piece, but you know what I did? I wrote a piece about like the biggest matchups of the week, and I picked 5 games, and basically said like, look, this is moving day in the NFL. This is the Saturday at the Masters because of Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Seattle and San Francisco. Like, you lose that game, it massively impacts the way you look at the rest of the season. And I basically wrote like, if Pittsburgh wins, this is what it means. And if Baltimore wins, this is what it means. And then like, this is who it's more important for. And I did that for like 5 games. I tried to give like real insight and use the schedule and everything else. So hopefully people can click on that and check it out.
Awesome stuff. If you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 2K on the channel. That's kind of exciting. So go and do that. If you're listening to it as a podcast, leave a comment, leave a review, all of that fun stuff. Keep up with all the stuff going on at Sporting News. If you're a Steelers fan, read all the stuff behind the steel curtain, all of that fun stuff. Matt, I always enjoy doing this with you, my friend. I always appreciate the time that you give me. So we'll do this again very soon, I'm sure. Maybe around Christmas time. The Steelers play the Chiefs. We'll do something.
Hey, man, you got it. Anytime. You know that.
All right, y'all. Take care until after the weekend where we'll talk about everything that happened in Week 11. Have a good one. This is the Pump.